Hi, welcome back. We are on episode 32.
Yes, this is episode
Mhm.
32. And before we get into the crux of the subject, I wanted to remind our audience that what we are going to be showing and explaining now, from now on, and all the upcoming episodes, is actually sometimes different from what the official scriptures have been telling us.
Eve.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's important
Yeah.
to realize that, what we are telling you are the memories of nature taken directly from the Akashic plane, the Akashic
Mhm.
records, okay? And the scriptures are the result of multiple translations, quite often of texts which have been written by people who were not even present during the events. So
Right.
it's up to you to decide what you
Right.
want to do.
Right. So what do we have for today?
So for today, we have a significant and a pivotal moment where Yeshua is actually meeting back his mother, Meryem,
Mhm.
after 18 years. Yeah.
Okay.
So the way it starts is like Yeshua and Eleazar,
Mhm.
is, I guess we can call him his first disciple. They are arriving in a place called Bethsaida. And they had a long walk along the shore of the lake. And again, we will be showing a couple of maps, just for people to,
Mhm.
to be familiar
Yeah,
with
that
that
always
area.
helps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And most of the action is going to take place now around that lake and in the different villages, which are on the shore of that lake. And Yeshua is mesmerized by the beauty of that lake. He likes the color, the blue. He likes the silver of the sun. The reflection of the
Mhm.
sun on the lake, on the water. He also likes the pink of the mountains all around it.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful vision for him. So Bethsaida is a very interesting village. Uh, of course it's built next to the lake, but there are so many wooden docks that it looks like the village is almost like Venice, like a city built on the
Oh,
lake.
okay.
So, but the ancient part of the village is still anchored on the ground, but there is a lot of buildings which are on top of the lake. And at that point, so Yeshua is admiring the scenery and everything. As
Mhm.
Eleazar is continually speaking. He's excited. He's asking a lot of questions. And Yeshua, listening to him, realized that he has become a living source and he has to accept it. Our audience who have been following the previous episode know that Yeshua has been, quite often all by himself. So he's used to being solitary, a recluse almost, and having that Eleazar next to him, which is chatting and asking
It's
questions
kind of like you and me, huh?
and in an unstoppable ways.
Well, I don't know about that.
So Eleazar asked Yeshua,
Mhm.
are you really the Messiah, Rabbi? Are
Mhm.
you really the one they are talking about? Do I have to believe the words that were said about you and the winged son that I saw? Because Eleazar attended his baptism in the Jordan River.
Mm,
And
okay.
Eleazar is um, developed enough and evolved enough to have been able to see certain things.
Mm.
And in particular, we talked about the eighth chakra, which was on top of the head of Yeshua, right?
Right.
When he received the overshadowing by the Christic energy. And so Yeshua responded to Eleazar, I'm not asking to believe Eleazar, I will never ask you to believe anything. I only want you to live and to listen directly to the eternal.
Mm,
Okay.
okay.
So Eleazar becomes silent, and he and Yeshua they find finally a derelict boat, a little wreck on the beach, and they're gonna spend the night there. So this will be their first night in Bethsaida. And at dawn, Yeshua is already wandering in the streets in the market. This is the day of the market in the week, so this is a perfect opportunity to actually meet people that he
Mm-hmm.
wanted to find. And Eleazar stayed behind where they spent the night. And I think actually this was done upon the request of Yeshua, because Yeshua wanted to meet his mother by himself, not with anybody else. And the market is actually in Bethsaida at that time. Is organized around an old well, which is located in the center of the village. So I guess we have to picture, a bunch of streets coming, and then there is a little square and a well in the middle. And the fragrance of the yasamana, which is the jasmine, is everywhere. So it's very pleasant in the air. And Yeshua really enjoyed the atmosphere of the place. And so he knows that his mother is living in Bethsaida. Why does he know it? Because he probably asked, and he also has been in communication with her in the astral plane.
Telepathically or astral plane?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
mostly in the astral plane through dreams,
Right.
lucid dreams and stuff like that. So he knows, but he has not seen her in the physical for a very long time, but he knows that she's there. And in a corner of the street, Yeshua sees a stack of ropes, and he decides to sit there. So he's going to sit on the big pile of ropes. And around him, he's looking around, and there are stands with fruit, spices, flowers, salted fish drying in the sun. I mean, all the stuff that was exchanging at that time. That was being exchanged, yeah. So everybody's chatting, and the donkeys are overloaded with goods, and
hustle and bustle.
Yeah, and Yeshua, again, being shy and being discreet, doesn't want to be noticed. So he's going to use a technique, a trick, actually, to become invisible. And the way he does it is by sucking inside himself all the light of his aura. So,
well, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Especially for him.
And his soul. So basically he's contracting, sucking inside all the emanation, because again, he's not a normal person, right?
Right.
And his presence is automatically noticed by a lot of people, right? And so to prevent that from happening, he's trying to constrict his aura and suck it inside himself, yeah. And that practice actually makes him invisible. I mean, he becomes like a piece of the environment, of the scenery.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how he does. Yeah. And suddenly he sees from the distance a group of women wearing the blue robes, and they start coming his way. And one of them has a white veil on her head. So Yeshua knows immediately that this is his mother, Meryem.
Okay.
Yeah. She's the only one with the white veil. And so at that point, he's going to stand up, and he's trying to not cause any commotion. I mean, again, this is a very, how can I say? It's a very big meeting, a very big moment.
Well, they haven't seen each other in 20 years?
Yeah, 18, 19 years.
Yeah.
That's a very long time.
It's a long time, not to make a commotion.
Yeah, and so he starts walking toward the group of the women very slowly, And he's also surprised that because inside himself, there is no emotion. Again, for the people who have been following us before, the ego of Yeshua has been put in the back burner, and the Christic energy is actually driving the entire show and controlling his personality. So that's why there is no physical emotion or a sentimental emotion.
Right?
Yeah,
Wouldn't you say he's detached, but still connected through his heart?
But he still feel a very, very sweet peace. This is
course.
something that he has to do. Yeah, and he's about 10 feet in front of Meryem, and he sees her raise her face. She was probably looking down. Like
she probably saw him. Yeah.
And their eyes finally meet. And for Yeshua, it's like the time and even the sun had stopped. It's a very special moment. And Meryem does not talk, and Yeshua hears her voice in his mind. So it is all telepathic. The communication is all through their mind. And here Meryem says, "Is it you?" So Yeshua responds, "Yes," always telepathically, yes, it is me, Mother, And Meryem stuttered, "Oh, my son." And quickly, she gets into Yeshua's arms, and she even lets a little tear run on her cheek. She's a tough woman.
She is. Tougher than us.
Yeah, and
Hmm.
it was not simply the meeting of a mother and her son. It was much more than that.
Mm.
And it was the incredible and perfect cosmic mechanic, being orchestrated, being organized by the universe. And everything was done perfectly in the minute details.
Mm.
Yeah. And Yeshua asked Miriam, Mother, did you really recognize me? And she said, No, my son, just your glance.
Mm.
Your glance is why I recognize you. So at that point, they have so much to tell each other. And Yeshua takes Miriam's arm and it's take her away from the mess and the noise of the market, And he wants he grabs her arm and he wants to lead her to the lake. And Miriam says to Yeshua, No, I beg you, let's not go that far. And Yeshua asking, but why? What's going on? Why is that? She tells him again, let's not go too far, things could be said. Nobody knows you around here.
Oh,
Yeah, because
okay.
she's a woman and
Right.
she would suddenly disappear
With
in
him.
a remote
Yeah.
location,
And nobody knows that it's
and
him.
nobody
and-
knows him, and nobody
Mhm.
knows that she's the mother and he's the son.
Right.
So she's also very, very
Conscious of
conscious and worried about that, And that exchange reminds Yeshua that basically that the freedom is actually heavily monitored in Palestine, and that the kind of freedom Yeshua had, all along his life, pretty much, right, was absolutely unthinkable in that place at that time.
Yeah.
You had to go by the rules and respect the rules, So,
yeah.
And Yeshua tells his mother, it is for that exact reason, mother, that I am coming back. I want to change the pettiness of son, and I want to destroy the chains, that are basically making you prisoners, enslaved of this. Yeah. And Miriam tells him, I understand you, but you realize the length of the path to weed out all these rules and all these insanities,
Yeah.
It's going to be very difficult. So finally, Miriam accepts to follow her son, and they go to a secluded place on the shore of the lake. They find 2 large stones, and they're going to sit to talk there. And before talking, Yeshua observes his mother, he's looking at her, and he sees the fire inside her. I mean, we know that Miriam was, how do you call that? A priestess of high level, in one of the sacred temples in near Jerusalem. And she's also a very evolved avatar, She's an ascended master as well.
Right.
And so Yeshua is observing all this inside her. And he also realized that she's reciprocally watching him. And she's coming to terms with the fact that what she's seeing, the fire that she's seeing inside her son, has nothing human. Because she sees the Christic energy inside him.
Yeah. Only a mother could see.
Yes, only a mother could see, yes. And at the end of the day, Yeshua realized that she never called him by his name.
I wonder why.
Well, maybe because she realized that he's no longer Yeshua. He's a lot more than that. Yeah. And so they're going to talk about the family first. And I think it's important for our audience to know that what are the changes in Yeshua's family, So we know that he has a brother, Judas, right? There was also another sister, Sarah, which was born. There was then Jacob and Simeon. And then there was also later on Judah, who was adopted, Okay, he was not born from Miriam. And so she tells him, Judas looks almost identical to you, Yeshua. He's about the same size, very tall, and he's almost a carbon copy of Yeshua.
Oh,
yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The Simeon, the youngest one, has joined the group which is called the Iscari. So he's a rebel basically against the Roman control. He's always with a knife, and she tells, Miriam tells Yeshua, the Eternal does not speak to him. So he's fully into the three-dimensional.
He's a warrior.
Yeah, he's a rebel. He's completely in the matrix, and he's not in communication with the higher planes. Yeah. And Miriam also no longer lives in the small village where they grew up, where Yeshua was born. She moved to the lake, and she's staying with an old cousin, and she has a maid from Nubia, from Africa. And she asked him, "Are you going back to the village, my son?" And Yeshua says, "Well, maybe one day, but most of the work that I have to do has to be done around the lake." And, this is not told in this book, but Yeshua will go back to his village, and this is being described in another book, and things didn't go very well. So he knows that he doesn't have to go back to his village. See, let's say the population in his village has not progressed in the way they were expected to progress.
Oh, okay.
There were Essenes, but the leadership of the Essenes was basically dwindling down, and things did not work out very well yet. And so Yeshua realized that, there is no reason for him to go back to this village. And as all the members of his family and all the friends that he had are now living around the lake.
Oh, okay.
So the next day, Yeshua introduced his friend Eleazar to his mother Meryem. Okay. And in fact, they know each other. Because Eleazar is a cousin of Miriam.
Oh.
Yeah.
So
they're all
Yeshua
related.
didn't know that?
No, Yeshua didn't know that.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And so that point proved to Yeshua the perfect dovetailing, of the cosmic plan put in motion.
It's a small world.
Yeah, it's a very small world, especially when the universe, does everything it can to make it happen. Yeah. So it's not a coincidence that Eleazar is a cousin of Miriam, right? It's not a coincidence that John the Baptist also was a cousin of Yeshua. And it's not a coincidence that Eleazar is going to become the first disciple of Yeshua. And, the person who has basically translated these teachings in the most credible and precise way. Yeah. And so they talk about Eleazar, and Yeshua learns about Eleazar a little bit more. He knows that Eleazar, and I think it's important to know him because he's John. And so I guess
do you mean he's John?
His name is known as John in the Bible. Eleazar is John.
Okay.
So it's important to know a little bit about his background. So he has lived between Jerusalem and Caphernaum at that point, and then he moved to Bethsaida, where he became a friend with a fisherman called Zebedee. I don't know if the Bible talks about that, but anyway.
Not that I can remember. But...
Yeah, and that fisherman taught him the art of throwing the nets and to locate the schools of fish according to the color of the water and the color of the sky.
Oh.
See? That's obviously that's a knowledge we have lost since then, right?
Any fishermen out there? Now you know.
They knew at that time on the lake how to catch where to throw the nets and catch the biggest amount of fish. Yeah. And Eleazar is also very intellectual. He's doing translation in Greek and he's making some money. So Eleazar speaks multiple languages, and that is why he was able to record in Greek the teachings of Yeshua.
Oh, okay. So those are probably the right ones.
Yes, those are
as
the
long
right
as they
ones.
got translated.
Yeah, correctly.
Yes.
Or for people who know the Greek, they can directly read them in Greek.
Right.
Eleazar is also renting the small property he owns with Martha in another village called Bethany near Jerusalem, And in fact, Eleazar is free. He's a free mind, he's a free spirit, and Yeshua loves that. He knows that there is a lot of good ferment, a good ground for developing something
Right.
with Eleazar. And Yeshua and Eleazar have a conversation. And Eleazar expresses to Yeshua the fact that he would like to become his disciple. And he needs a master and a guru, at that time. And I think for even in our time, people think that they need to be the disciple of a guru or the disciple of a master, right?
Well, for a little while.
For a little while, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So Yeshua tells him the following. He said to Eleazar, start by respecting the things that forces you to grow. Okay? And only after that, you will be in a position to learn about love with a capital L. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And it's very interesting because for Yeshua, he reads Eleazar and he reads his soul like an open book. So he knows about the past of Eleazar. He knows that Eleazar has been a master in previous incarnations. He knows that man is very capable.
Mm-hmm.
And Eleazar again, so Yeshua, do you want me to be your student? And Yeshua responds, it is up to you to decide, Eleazar. If you see a master in me, I want you to know that I'm not recruiting. I open doors and one can cross the threshold if they want.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And again, we are trying to retranscribe, what was said exactly in the way it was said by Yeshua. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And this is coming directly from the Akashic memories. Okay. There is no
mistranslation or somebody adding in their own little
there are opinions
opinion
or whatever. Okay.
Right.
This is directly straight from the horse mouth.
Right.
if I may say that. So Meryem, Yeshua, and Eleazar are going to be living together, and a few days later Yeshua gives some teachings in the village of Caphernaum. And nothing was planned, it was more like an impromptu meeting.
Mm-hmm.
They decide, okay, let's just meet and talk.
Mm-hmm.
And they sit in the center of the village, and they are surrounded by a beautiful scenery, mostly pomegranate and almond trees. So it could be worse, right?
Not bad.
And among there is a little crowd that is starting to be gathered, and it's mostly men and a few women. Okay, and among those people, let's mention a few names. So there is Simon, who is one of the best friend of Yeshua. He's actually the previous incarnation of the author of the book. Okay.
Oh, that's right.
Daniel Moroa,
Mm-hmm.
So his name is Simon, the fils of the potter. His wife Meryem was there too. There is Jacob. There is Esther from the village where Yeshua grew up. There is Barnaby. There is Matthias. There is, of course, Meryem, the mother of Yeshua, and a few cousins of Meryem because she has a lot of them.
Back then, there were a lot of kids.
Yes. And everybody is gathered to listen to Yeshua. And Yeshua is going to touch their souls. And he's going to touch not only their souls, but he's going also to touch the order of the synagogues. He's going to touch the quietness of the countryside. He's going to rock the peace of the lake. And even the indifference of the Romans are going to be disturbed by what he's saying, And his first talk is about freedom, the freedom of the birth of every human being, and the freedom that they do not recognize when they are born, a freedom that no priest or Roman authority could take away, and the freedom, which is very important for Yeshua, to talk directly to God without any intermediaries.
Right.
And he's constantly talking about that, the fact that we are part of God, that God is inside us, and we can communicate directly with the Creator without any churches, synagogues, priest in the middle.
Right.
Yeah.
Guess that kind of got missed a little.
I think it got lost in the translation.
Little.
Yeah, because he said every human being is the temple of God. It is his vehicle. So we have to see each human being as an aspect, a spark of God. Yeah.
Right.
And of course, Yeshua is always presenting God as his father, or he also calls him Hawun, and we have seen that name before. So, of course, hearing this kind of stuff, some people are starting to make some nasty comments, right?
Because they don't like that.
And one of them say, "Oh, so you're not going to the synagogues, huh? You don't find it beautiful enough for you, right?" And Yeshua respond to those naysayer, with what we have in the heart is in fact infinitely more fascinating and grand than any synagogue built by the man.
Oh boy, now he's in trouble.
And he said, what man build is so little in comparison of what man is built of.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he said to that same person, as far as the laws are concerned, they will all pass. Because more of them come close to what God has engraved inside you. Okay? So we know that all those laws, all those rituals, all those religions, all those mandates are basically, they're disappearing with time, right? They are being wiped out. It's actually of no importance when you think about it.
Right.
So at that point, a very rare silence follows on the audience. You have to picture that group of people
pin drop.
In the middle of Caphernaum, surrounded by those beautiful trees, and then at one point somebody screams, "He's crazy! He's a Nazarite, or I don't know what." And at that point, Yeshua realized, maybe that's enough for today. For the first time that he's talking to a public crowd, And so he's going to walk through the crowd, and he's followed by his mother, by Eleazar, by Esther, by Simon, Miriam, and a few others. And he leaves the square, basically. And that was it. The almighty power of Christ had voiced the call. It was not a provocation, even if it looked like one. It was actually an answer to that unconscious scream sent by the whole humankind. So again, I'd like to make a parenthesis here. There are times in the history of humanity where people are screaming, and they may not be screaming vocally with their voice, but they are screaming with their mind and with their spirit, with their soul, that something has to change, that something needs to happen, right? And there was, closer to us, there was something not similar to that in 1987, when the harmonic convergence took place. And I think that was basically a gauging of the awareness and the consciousness of humankind, which was done in the summer of 1987. Yeah. And they realized at that point that something had to change. And we are seeing the changes taking place now. Definitely, in the 20, basically starting 2016, and all the way, it will go all the way to 2030. Yeah. And we are seeing a fantastic awakening of humankind taking place. Yeah. We are seeing the rocking and the destruction of a lot of thoughts and ideas. And so we have to realize that this is a similar phenomenon took place 2,000 years ago when Yeshua was doing his teachings in Palestine. There was actually, unknown to the people, they had requested an intervention from the cosmos and from the universe.
Okay.
So what Yeshua sees that for eons, for a very, very long time, there was a very deep fracture which had been created between the humans and the divine. And there are times, when a cycle starts, when a cycle ends, like it is for us today, the cycle starts when Yeshua came, and the cycle is ending today, most likely in 2030, when we move to another cycle. And so at that point,
What cycle would that be?
that would be
The golden age?
I wouldn't call it the golden age because I don't want to get into political stuff.
Well,
but
no, I wasn't either.
It would be the age of Aquarius, right?
Okay, right. Okay. The golden age.
Yeah.
Before
And
somebody took it.
Yeshua thinks that this fracture, this gap, is a result of the slumber of the people who are in a position of power. Because the people who are in a position of power, they don't want to relinquish it. They can never help other people to get to the same level as where they are. They always want more power at the expense of other people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a way of sleeping. It's a way of slumbering. Mm-hmm. Because you are not aware, you're not realizing that the power that has been given to you for a specific purpose. Mm-hmm. It's not only to become richer or more powerful for yourself, but to help others. So while
some people didn't get that memo.
No, and I know, unfortunately, a lot of them have not gotten it yet. And so while this little group, following Yeshua, walks away from the crowd, 50 yards out of the crowd, a man stands in front of Yeshua, and he raised his robe and he shows a very large and purulent wound on his thigh. Something absolutely ugly, Mm-hmm. And he says, "Rabbi, look at that. It has been there for years and it is growing. Mm-hmm. If the eternal is in you, you can probably heal that wound."
Mm-hmm. Oh, geez. Okay.
And the man tries to escape Yeshua's gaze. He wants Yeshua to be only focused on his wound and nothing else. Mm-hmm. But Yeshua managed to grasp his eyes, mm-hmm. and read into his soul. He's caught. Mm-hmm. And Yeshua tells the man, "Did you ever ask yourself why this wound does not heal? Did you ask the eternal in you? Me, I'm asking you. I'm not expecting an answer now, but simply that you ask yourself why you have that wound." Okay. And he's not healing the man. Oh. And I think it's important to see the difference between the old Yeshua, who would have healed so many, like he healed so many people, and the new Christic energy, mm-hmm. which is now saying, okay, there is a reason why you have this wound, which is not healing, and you need to go inside yourself to find out why.
Oh, here we go.
And I'm not going to heal you mm-hmm. until you find for yourself.
You figure out what emotional stuff
yes.
is stuck to him.
Yes.
That he hasn't worked through.
So again, I think it's very important to see what used to be Yeshua and mm-hmm. what is now the Christic energy.
Well, he's really trying to help people.
Yes.
I mean, you cannot help people if you're always healing them.
Exactly.
Because there's a reason why they got there.
Right.
So you have to teach them what they need to do. So he's teaching them. That's good.
So Yeshua does not say anything more, He goes around the man and he continues walking away from Caphernaum and towards the village of Bethsaida. And so one of Yeshua's followers asked him, "Why did you not heal him? We know you can do it." Mm-hmm. And Yeshua responds to that guy, "Do you know it or do you believe it?" Always asking questions, right? This is the best way to teach. Yeah. It's not to give you an answer.
Right.
It's to give you another question.
Right.
So after a little walk, Yeshua stops and he watches the groups again, which is behind him. And the man who asked the question is a solid guy, he's a fisherman, he's very well built. And his name is, in Hebraic, or actually, I think
Aramaic.
Aramaic. Yes,
Mhm.
the name was Alonahe, which means the oak tree,
Oh, okay.
because of his size and the way he
he's a
was
big,
built.
beefy
You know, yeah.
guy. Mhm.
And Yeshua is going to give him a new name. He's going to call him Andros, which means virile, virile in Greek,
Mhm.
very strong, very strong, yeah.
Mhm.
And later on, that Andros will become André and then Andrew in the Bible.
Oh, okay.
So that's how the
The
names are
progression of the
evolving.
names, yes.
So from the oak in Aramaic, we ended up
Mhm.
with Andrew in the James Bible, yeah. And Yeshua tells Andrew, it is good to believe Andros, and it can be respectable, but believing can also become the ferment of your enslavement.
Mm. Okay.
See,
Yeah.
you cannot just believe. You have to study it inside yourself.
Yeah. Be it.
Yeah, because we know today,
Mhm.
the belief has become the enslavement of millions and millions of people.
Right.
And Yeshua goes, let's talk, my brothers. And they all tell him, but we don't want to talk. We want to listen to you.
Mm.
And Yeshua tells them, we need to create a dialogue. That is how you learn. The dialogue teaches the laws of sharing. And Andros again goes, what are you expecting from us? And Yeshua responds, and you all, what are you expecting from me?
True, he's got a point.
Right. And
Yeah.
Andros goes, we heard you talk about freedom. We all want to get rid of the Romans.
Mm.
And Yeshua tells them, he tells the group, you're trying to free yourself. But what do you think of your ancestors and the ancestors of your ancestors, right?
Mhm.
Today, it is the Roman. Tomorrow, it will be something else. There will always be someone to enslave you.
Right.
Nothing changes.
It still hasn't today.
And still has not.
Yeah, here we are.
Today we have the IRS and all these, organizations which
Right.
are here to enslave us as
Yes.
much as possible.
Just looks a little different.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And Yeshua says, if you're hoping that I'm going to help you free yourself from the Romans, your disappointment will be bitter.
Mm.
Because what I'm offering you is a total revolution, the revolution of your consciousness. And he asked the group, Rome, it's you. Babylon, it's you as well. And one or the other will remain your master until you understand not what I'm telling you, but the essence of what I am seeding inside you.
Okay.
Yeah. And understand it. I'm not here to create or reinforce a belief or a religion. So he's very clear about that. And I think it's important to repeat it. During all his life, he has always said, I do not want to create a religion or a belief.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But look at what has been done in his name. And
Pretty quickly.
And he keeps going and he's saying, I'm here to invite you to understand, to know what your heart is made of and what is the name of its freedom. Yeah. And so one of the women, Esther, she asks, very shyly, so you do not want us to be faithful? She's starting to...
Wait a minute, I don't want to get in trouble, right?
Yeah. And Yeshua tells Esther, what is faith? It is very little, without the experience and the feeling of Hawun. Do you understand? There is no faith without the living, without the experience. I mean, it serves no purpose.
Yeah.
It's like believing a story, right?
Exactly.
And Yeshua invites the group, to get closer to him. So they are all surrounding him. And out of his hands, suddenly, a lot of salt is running. So
there's a lot of things coming out of his hands.
The palm of his hands, are secreting that large quantities of salt. And he's giving the salt to every one of the people around him. And I know nowadays, salt is like a common stuff. Nobody pays attention to it. But in those days, salt
It was
was
pretty
essential.
precious.
Yeah, it's very
Mhm.
extremely precious.
Mhm.
And again, let's remind the audience that what we call salary, le salaire, is actually the translation of salt, because that's how Roman soldiers were paid. Roman soldiers were paid in salt, so they could live and survive and keep their nervous system running.
Right. Yeah.
They were not given money; they were given salt, and that's where salary comes from. Yeah.
Hmm.
And so everybody in the group, is taking the salt. A few of them are tasting it. So, and Yeshua goes on, I want to touch your heart, not your head. Again, he's directing to the heart, not to
Right.
the mental.
Mhm.
I want to reach all the extension of your heart in your entire body. And Yeshua realized that if these men and women are following him, it is not to receive caresses and gentle words, but to be shaken to their core.
Right.
Because that's how you evolve,
Right.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah.
At times, but fortunate. I mean, it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Yeah. So, while they're all crying and looking at the salt and tasting it, he's observing this little group. And among them, there are 4 women. So it's a start, right?
Right.
It was a lot in a country where females were not even allowed to talk about spiritual things.
Mhm.
Yeah. And he realized the strength of the feminine energy, of that flame which keeps burning, of that loving intuition that is inside them, and the gift of metamorphosis and the changes that they carry inside them. And he knows
Yeah.
that a lot of the power of changes are coming through the female.
Right.
That's how things move. And he looks at the group again, and he's thinking that the scriptures are saying that the creation was completed in 7 days. But the truth is that this creation is constantly being refined. It's constantly evolving, and that it would never be completed. Contrary to what some scriptures are talking about, And Yeshua knows that he's also very blasphemous when he says that, But that thought is actually sweet to his heart. He's a rebel at
He
heart.
is. I love him.
Yeah. And that night, after this first public teaching, he's going to climb onto a small fishing boat, and it's going to let the boat go by, pushed by the currents. So he's laying down at the bottom of the hull and see where the boat is going to take it. And he knows that, even if the Christic energy is inside him, he's investing his flesh, he still needs to pray and to be alone. And for him, the solitude and the praying is essential.
Yeah.
This is how he sources himself, organizes his ideas and everything. And as the sun disappeared, over the mountains, Yeshua realized that the small boat is now approaching the shores of Migdal, the village of Migdal.
Oh, okay. All right.
And we know that he has never been there, but the shapes of the mountains are talking to his soul.
Other things will be talking to his soul there too, I'm sure.
Yeah, we know there will be some very nice encounter over there too.
Well, that was really interesting, the whole encounter with his mother. And,
yes, yeah, and the first teaching.
And the first
public
teaching.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
one
of many, and
one of many
would get him in trouble, unfortunately,
right.
But
so,
fortunately, both,
again, this is what the memories of nature are telling us,
Right.
And the audience is free to sing what they want.
Yeah, I also like how he talks about, really don't look at me as a guru or anything like that.
Yep.
I'm just here to teach you. He's just trying to lay it out for people to just
he's here
on
to
their
show
own.
the example of what can be done.
Right.
Yes.
Right. This is for you too.
Right. It is for you to study inside you,
Right.
Again, I like the fact that what he talks about the face. Face is nothing without the experience,
Exactly.
and it's the most important. You need to have the experience
Mm-hmm.
before you can even believe in something.
Right. Very true.
How
Well,
can you believe in
yeah,
love if you have never experienced love, right? It
exactly.
means nothing.
Right. Yeah,
It's
you
just a
don't
word.
know. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I'll give you the conclusion.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next week.